cool. Let's jump over and talk games.
Yeah, so because there's going to be so many that do DX12 and all support all these.
Yeah, there are already so many.
And I would say, man, this has been an amazing year for games, and it's not even over.
Yeah,
there's been no better time to be a gamer than this year.
I don't know about that. 98 and 2007 are the 2 years that we talk about most often. But yeah, it has been really good, and it's. I mean, we're only in. What is it? October? First week of October?
October 6th.
Yes.
Just started.
And yeah, we already have had a real crazy fall. September was the most packed September I think I've ever. I mean, I've been doing this 5 years. And this was the worst September I've ever had in terms of just like the constant onslaught of games. And it didn't help that 2 of those games were Divinity, which I'm now 80. I'm crossing the 80-hour mark in.
And you said you just finally got to the last area.
Yeah, I finally got to the last of 4 areas, and I'm crossing the 80-hour mark. And then Total Warhammer, which is, I think I spent like 30 hours playing. Total Warhammer 2, actually. So yeah, like between those 2 games requiring 110 hours of my life in September, and then the fact that like a million other games came out, it's been really crazy.
Yeah, because you've been messing around with Cuphead. Correct?
Yeah, Cuphead for a bit. I'm trying to...
SteamWorld Dig 2.
Yeah, SteamWorld Dig 2 took up like 2 days. That one was a short one, but I think that game is really good if you like a solid Metroidvania. So
You've been working on some racing stuff as well.
Yeah, we've been playing Forza. Project Cars 2 came out in September. It's just been really busy. And October is not getting any less busy. We have Shadow War next week. We have Evil Within 2 next week. The real killer is
South
at the end
Park.
of South Park. The real killer is at the end of the month when we have Destiny 2 comes out on PC on the 24th. And then I think Assassin's Creed and Wolfenstein both come out on the 27th. And so that week is going to be brutal too. I'm actually surprised, and this is going to be dumb. I don't know. I don't know sales figures on Assassin's Creed at this point, but I'm actually really surprised that Ubisoft put Assassin's Creed on that date. I think that putting that up against Destiny on the PC and Wolfenstein 2 was a real dumb move.
Ooh, really?
Yeah, I don't think Assassin's Creed has the love anymore to do that. They don't have the trust of fans to do that.
Well, that's the thing. You're you're talking about. You know, you're a reviewer, you get these games, you have to play them, and that sucks because there's so many.
Yeah.
But for a lot of people,
they're just choosing like 1 or 2.
One game a month, maybe.
Yeah, exactly. And at that point, like, I don't know. I think Assassin's Creed should have been pushed in November because actually, like, November used to be the real busy. That used to be the month. Yeah. And like this year, November is almost empty. Like November, Call of Duty and Battlefront, and that's it. Yeah. There's nothing else. And I don't know why that is. I don't know. Like Assassin's Creed used to come out in November, and then at one point they changed the end of October, and they just never went back, and they just always have kept this weird end of October slot. So yeah, I don't know. It's all kind of strange. But this year has been very busy and very good. I think.
Are they coming out with all the games on PC now because they want to get ahead of the consoles crushing us? Is that the...
I mean, yeah.
Where's Elena when you need her?
Well, the Xbox One X is coming out soon. You know, it's gonna...
Yeah, and I'll be doing that review, and we'll be putting it up. I mean, one of the things that the consoles currently have the advantage on is there's a lot of HDR TVs out there, and there's still not very many HDR monitors.
Those awesome looking G-Sync ones got pushed back all the way to next year.
No, exactly. I was waiting because right now, so Samsung has like, I think it's the CHG20 or whatever, and that's like your best bet. That's like a $500. I think it has FreeSync 2 enabled, and it's $500 and 27 inches or $650 for a 32 inch. But other than that, like there's nothing good out there. There's no G-Sync enabled ones. So anybody using NVIDIA, I don't know. It's a very weird market right now, and I don't know why it's taking them so long to get HDR10 onto PCs.
It's way too bad because like Mass Effect Andromeda theoretically supports it, but there's nothing to play it on. And that was a GeForce title.
Yeah, there's been a bunch. Shadow Warrior 2 came out a year ago now, and that supports HDR on the PC, and there's nothing you can play it on. There's no HDR monitor.
All the Microsoft games like Gears of War and Forza Horizon, probably presumably Motorsport.
Is there much more of an increase on graphics load going HDR? I mean, it's not much, right?
No, it's just a color thing.
Yeah.
It's not too bad as far as I know. And
a console
weird.
can handle it. So.
Nice.
Right now, Elena was sitting at her desk.
She's like, those assholes.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what's taking so long. The fact that both AMD and NVIDIA already have support in the graphics card, and we don't have anything to output it to, is very strange to me. So. I don't know why it's taking monitor manufacturers so long to get it around. I don't know if it has to do with a hardware latency thing or what, but it does suck. It's the one thing that I really like. Every time I go play my PS4 Pro, and it's all very vibrant and colorful on my TV, and then I go back to my monitor. I
can see that because I mean latency is way more of a thing on
absolutely.
PC
every time I have a PC hooked up to my TV, and in order to use it with games, you have to turn off like literally everything. Like you can't use any of the special effects or any of the color grading stuff, and even then. I move the mouse and like there's that
you just feel it.
Yeah, you can feel the delay every time it sluggishly moves across the TV. So.
And that's why consoles are better. I mean, it just makes sense.
They can account for that latency. We don't even need 60 frames a second anyway, because look at this television you're playing on.
But yeah, it's been crazy. I mean, I'm still loving. There's a lot of controversy about Forza 7 and loot boxes. There's a lot of loot boxes.
What's the
so Forza? So loot boxes are a hot topic at the moment, and I don't know if World of Warships has loot boxes.
There are loot boxes.
Definitely. This is a topic Gordon knows a lot about.
So yeah, there's a lot of controversy about loot boxes in games that you have paid full price for. Not so much in free to play games, but games that you've paid $40 to $60 for, and then they show up and there's this pseudo gambling element. So even in the games that it's done well, like I think Overwatch, for instance, does loot boxes very well. And by well, I mean it's very addictive, and you always are like, oh, I want to see like what I get, and they seem to put a lot of effort into the rewards that you get out of loot boxes. Then there's games like Forza, and the way that Forza has implemented their loot boxes, you get a couple of things. So first of all, they now show your driver, and you can dress up your driver, but you're in a car and you can't see the driver when you're driving. So instead, the driver's just like on every menu, like any menu that you see. There's like a rag doll of a dude standing there, and then he'll just dudette. Dudette, and he'll do like like the idle animations that you see in video games when you just have them move for a while. So it's just like constantly that. So it's just like a guy like clapping, and then like he'll like hold his hands up. And like he just does that all so that you can see your dumb costume that you put him in. And then they have these other things called mods, and the mods are the ones that I think are the most controversial. Because so in past Forza games, the way that you would earn more credits per race was you would turn off the assists, and so it incentivized you to get better at playing the game, because if you turned off, like for instance, the driving line, you would get like maybe 30% more credits out of every race. And so
if you made it harder, you would get rewarded.
Yeah, so you could go buy more cars, and so the way that they did it this time is none of that exists anymore. And instead, you get mods that are just like bad trading cards, and then you enable those on a race, and so then it'll be like a race specific thing. So on this race the ABS is turned off, and that gives you weird. 20% more credits, and it's a limited time use item, so you can only use it for like 4 or 5 races.
What?
And so for those 4 or 5 races, you get this 20% credit boost, but then it goes away. And like, if you have ABS off still, it doesn't matter. It's just like a thing that you're doing to play the game that way.
That's weird.
That's the part that bugs me, because it's actively taking away what was available in past games to make it shittier to implement loot boxes.
Yeah, I think it's just like a poor implementation, and it makes the game like the racing. The racing itself is still really good. Everything around the racing is just like very complicated. And like there's a lot of just managing which cards you're putting on each race. The way that they do it is they like have done this thing where it actually makes more sense to buy loot boxes at the lowest level. They have like a 20,000 credit loot box that's like the lowest level. And you normally earn like 8,000 credits per race. So that's like 3 races to get to this first level. But the mods are so powerful that they actually like make you buy this basic bad loot box because you'll get 4 mods, I think, out of it every single time. And those 4 mods are used on 4 races each, and you can stack 3 of them. And so you're like, you get like, I think 100% credit boost when you stack 3 of these mods. And so you're basically incentivized to, like, even if you don't care about this stuff, you might as well just buy the lowest box anyway, because you'll make money over the course of, like, you might only make a profit of 8,000 credits or whatever, but like you have made a profit. As I don't know, it's just like cheesy, crappy way to do it.
I haven't played it myself yet. I'm going to put that up front. I'm hoping to play it this weekend. But another part that reinforces that, reading your review, it seems to me like it reinforces it, is the way they've changed. You need the car ratings. So you need to have X amount of cars before you can move up to the next class. And it feels to me like that just kind of feeds into the whole, you should spend money on mods, you should spend money on loot boxes.
Yeah, so I used to play like, I mean, the way that I used to play Forza was I have like my 4 cars, right, that I enjoy driving. And it was like a 70 Charger, and then like a Bugatti Veyron on the high end, and then like another like 2 or 3 cars in the middle. And you would just like save up. Like I would drive that Charger until it, like, you know, it's like driving your old crappy Honda until it dies. Like I would drive that Charger for like 10, 15 hours until I had enough money to just splurge on a Veyron, and then I would buy that and then drive that for another like 10, 15 hours or whatever. And now the way that they've done it is they've restructured every car into like a rarity level, and there are 5 levels. And in order to like buy cars in the next tier, you have to like buy enough of the bad cars that you don't want to like move up into the next one.
It's like a real life collector.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so like all the cars that you used to just look at and be like, I would never buy this. Like all the crappy, like, hey, it's an 88 Volkswagen, and you look at it and you're like, man, that's an ugly car. Like that's just a bad looking vehicle. Mm-hmm. And you used to like, I don't even need this. Now you're just like, well, I'll just buy it because it's 20,000 credits. It'll bump me up to the next level.
Yeah, and that feeds into the needing mods to get more credits.
Yeah, it's just like very weird. So I made it like halfway through the career, and I've kind of just quit. Like I think that the racing is real fun, and we're gonna play some of this later, but like I've been testing that and Project Cars 2.
Yeah.
And as somebody who is more of an arcade racer, I think Forza is a lot more approachable for obvious. Like, I mean, once you touch the wheel, you're like, every time I take a lap in Project Cars 2, there's a 50 or 60% chance I'm gonna spin out on one of the corners because like the handling in that game is like very twitchy, and also just like very like expert handling. Like all those cars.
Unforgiving.
Yeah, you know, they want it to be like a real world sim, and I don't think that they quite get there even in Project Cars 2. I don't think that it approaches like iRacing and Assetto Corsa and all these other racing sims, but they like try. And Forza is just like, hey, we're like a sim-like racer, but like we really just want you to have fun, and like we don't want you to spin out on all these corners and die and whatever. But like Project Cars 2, you start that game and they're just like, here's all the cars and here are all the tracks, and you can just race any car on any track like right from the get-go. We don't care. There's no like weird gated system. And I don't know, like I played Forza and I was enjoying the driving part, but every time I get kicked back to a menu, I was just like, what is going on here? Like, why is there so much stuff in the way of me just enjoying the race?
Isn't that troubling? And I gotta say, it does seem like a troubling trend, because it's like, you can imagine if you go into a casino, they have figured everything out to how to get you, like where they've put the machines, and then how much you get to win, and then just everything is designed to get you to gamble more and more. It just feels like video games, they've got some kind of psychological expert going, if you make this here and then here, we're gonna.
No, they absolutely do. And the funny thing is, like, this is outlawed in a lot of the world. So this type of mechanic is called a gachapon mechanic. That's what the loot box is technically from, is these gacha games that were real popular in mobile gaming in Japan in like 20.
Gacha, Gacha.
Yeah,
gotcha.
yeah.
You know, that makes sense.
Gotcha.
And we're popular in like the 2009, like that early smartphone period of like 2009 to 2012. And Japan was like, no, this is gambling. Like, we don't care what, it's just gambling. We're banning this. And then some countries have changed those restrictions. So now, like, I think in China, for instance, that's one of the territories where they have to publish the likelihood of like all the items coming out of loot boxes. So like if you have like a rare costume in Overwatch, like Blizzard has to put the number out there of like, this is how likely this costume is to drop. And that like is supposed to like dissuade people, I guess, from gambling on it. Like if you see it's a 1 in 5,000 chance that this thing is going to drop, you might be less likely to buy 10 loot boxes because your chance is not that good.
It's like how they put the same odds on the back of scratch tickets.
Yeah, exactly. But in the U.S., for some reason, this has not been legislated yet, and so companies can kind of just get away with whatever
at this point.
Yeah, at the moment. And speaking in 2017, there's nothing on the books about, oh, you have to like do this. And it's actually kind of surprising given how much legislative scrutiny video games have undergone in, the history of video games in this country. It's kind of amazing that nobody's put out like a protect the children
capitalism
from
man.
Gambling law.
Capitalism.
Or whatever. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, video games were such a hot button topic from like 2000, especially that Jack Thompson lawyer era. Yeah. It's weird that nobody's put out like, hey, this is just gambling, right? Like maybe we should not let people put this in their games.
But I think what bugs me is it's not like they were really gambling. They were trying to take advantage of addictive personalities or addictive.
I mean, it is gambling. Like if you are. So like back in the day when microtransactions when DLC became a thing in 2007-ish, or 2005-ish, I guess, when Oblivion came out, you are paying money for a thing, right? Like you pay money and you get horse armor or whatever back, and like you have made an exchange of goods. The problem with loot boxes is, their defense is, hey, you can just use in-game currency. Like that's their defense every time, like no matter who it is. But there is the option in most of these games to put in real money and get back a number of random boxes. They're just inscrutable closed boxes, and then you pop them open hoping that the thing that you wanted was inside. And that's just straight up gambling. Yeah, if you're putting real money into a thing and you don't know what you're getting back, that's just gambling. And I don't know, like I don't have a huge problem with the idea of it. And as I said, I think there are certain games that do loot boxes in a way that's decent. Like I think that when you play Overwatch, they reward you with boxes pretty often. The boxes or the items that they put in those boxes are well crafted. They've like clearly spent time on it. They're always coming out with like more stuff. Like I think there are games that do this okay. I don't think that it's a thing that needs to be banned necessarily. But like Forza is just like a very bad implementation. And from what I understand, like so Shadow of War comes out next week. That also has loot boxes. That's also a $60 game. And in that one, your loot boxes contain orc followers, they contain gear, they contain stuff that you're actually using to like play the game, which is even shadier to me than what Forza is doing. And I think that we're like heading down like a real bad path in regards to this stuff. I thought that DLC was not a great path for gaming to go down for a decade or whatever. But like this is just shady. The DLC stuff I thought was just like, hey, it's a necessary evil. We need to monetize our games and blah, blah. But like this new step is, hey, we've chosen to monetize our games off of, as you said, addictive personalities and people that are like, oh, I need to have this stuff.
Right.
And this stuff like doesn't have any real world value in any way.
And studies into those gotcha mechanics kind of things, the loot boxes have shown that it's like 1 or 2% of the population that buys like 95% of the loot boxes.
Yeah.
So it truly is taking advantage of addictive personalities.
Yeah, I think it's like, I don't know. And the problem is that, in a lot of cases, the game was balanced around this stuff. And even if they do a good job of it, for me at least, it subconsciously feels worse. Like every time so like the worst part in Forza, this is a a great one. So they have an announcer in all the menus, and usually the announcer, you just ignore him. He's like, "Oh, you did a great job on that last race," or like the generic soundbite barks. But there's one, and I can't remember like where it happens. I think it's pretty early on. They kick you back to the menu, and he like tells you to go buy loot boxes. Like, straight up, he's just like, "Hey, that was a good race, but did you know you can go buy prize crates?" Or like it's like a very blatant, like gross implementation of this thing to direct people. And so, to be fair, at the moment you can't spend real money in Forza 7. That's an important distinction to make. But they have said that that's their end game here. Like within the next month or two, that's the end game.
Yep.
And so the fact that you now have a guy who's just like telling you, like, get out your credit card, go buy those loot boxes, kids. Like, it feels bad. Like that decreases my enjoyment.
And this is not a free game.
No, this is a $60 retail title. This is a full price game.
Which you have to get through the Microsoft store, right?
Yeah, on PC at least. And I understand why this happened. I love Steam sales and game sales in general. But there's no doubt that Steam sales and Humble Bundles and stuff like that have really soured the market on spending full price on games. And so, like back when I was a kid, if a game was $60, like that was the price for a long time. That was, 3 years later, that's still a $60 game. And then like in my teenage years, it started to be like, it would start at 60. And then like a year later, that would be a $30 game. And $30 was as low as those games ever went. Like half price was the lowest you ever saw games until they were like a generation old. And I remember like when the 360 came out, I went into a GameStop and I bought probably like 20 Xbox, like original Xbox games when the 360 came out, because what would happen was, all the old stock would just go in a bin and all these games would be like buy one, get one. And they're all marked down to like $5 because GameStop just wants to get rid of all these old Xbox games that nobody's going to buy anymore.
Well, and the switch to discs as well.
Yeah. And so like you used to have like publishers made money over time. There was a tail on these games. And the problem now is like you see that price just like before the games even come out, like it's listed at $60 on Steam, but I don't know the last time I actually saw a game launch at $60 on Steam.
They're just not making their money back.
Yeah, those games launch at 10% off, so they're down at $54 already.
I mean, Amazon Prime gives the same deals too.
And then within like, I don't know, 3 weeks you're down to like 45, and then within like 2 months sometimes you're down to 30. And then when you add in Steam sales, everybody's just waiting for the next Steam sale. So, October, we've got the Halloween sale coming up. And a bunch of those games that just came out, so Doom is a year and a half old at this point.
Yeah.
And like Doom will be in that Halloween sale for like $5, $10, maybe.
Well, the thing is, I think I agree. And I think that especially for these AAA games that spend ridiculous amounts of money. Yeah. Like Forza costs a ton to make.
Yep.
That they need to make their money. But the problem is, like, these loot boxes don't belong in this kind of game. Like, I'm fine with DLCs, I'm fine with expansions. I think you need to think of a thing that makes sense for your game, because loot boxes in Forza and Shadow of War.
Yeah, it's just a weird. Gross. Yeah, it's a weird fit. And yeah, I feel like, I mean, that's one of the things, like, I don't mind. I think Overwatch is a weird case because it was a $40 game that had loot boxes, and people generally don't mind those loot boxes. That's like one of the only games I can think about that with, because the rest of the time, everything that's free to play, I have no problem. If you're free to play and you have loot boxes, fine, whatever. I do not care. Does not bother me in any way. It's mainly these like, yeah, we're $60 and that's how we're going to make our money on top of the money you already paid.
Well, I think some of it is also social too. You know what I mean? Like, hey, you said in Forza you barely see your character, you know, but you're also not playing online and showing other people like in Overwatch. In Overwatch, you're like, hey, I bought this and I get to show it off. You know?
And that's part of the problem is Forza's whole thing for years was built off, you can customize your car however you want. And so you could see how another racing game, like maybe a Project Cars or whatever, their whole loot box system could be built around like, hey, you can customize your car. Like, hey, this is a new car skin, and now your car looks like a dragon or whatever. Like, that's Rocket League's whole MO. Rocket League's MO is just, hey, we're an expansion, or we're every expansion, every piece of DLC is just a new car. And then the things that pop out of loot boxes at the end of a match are just random decals and stuff like that. But Forza can't do that because they had that system for free before.
It just seems to me like it's not worth it. Like, it'd be interesting because, you know, all developers always say, yeah, you got your brand new 6-core Coffee Lake and Ryzen 8-core whoop-de-doo. We're not gonna support it. Nobody has these things. What if they said, like, hey, $25, we're going to add support for 6-core CPUs. Oh, yeah, I'm going to buy the Coffee Lake Core i7 pack.
People would flip.
Oh.
I mean, and we've talked about, like, Brad and I have, Brad's seen my articles. I've written things about size before, and I definitely think there are things that developers should be fixing on the technical side.
Game download size.
Yeah, game download size. So Forza is 100 gigs. It's great because we can stay on the same topic. Yeah, Forza is 100 gigs. And
that's a record. That's got to be a record.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure for just a base game with no expansions, I'm pretty sure that is the record at the moment.
Oh, that's nuts.
I think Doom was like 65 on release, and Gears 4 was like 75 maybe on release. But yeah, I think 100 is the most I've ever seen. I think that there's going to be a reckoning there in a couple of years too, where people have to say like, I mean, now that we all nationwide have a 1 terabyte cap on our internet, I think that it's going to start causing problems.
That's a tenth of it before you even start watching Netflix videos.
I think that it's going to start causing problems for some people. But I really think that like the monetization aspect is just like the biggest problem in games at the moment. And I understand what the root cause of the problem is. These games cost a lot of money. They aren't making a lot of the money back on sales anymore. Pre-orders aren't as effective as they used to be. People aren't really buying DLC anymore. I think that they sort of poisoned the well on DLC so much and on expansions. Like even the games that you used to care about, like Fallout 4, I think broke a lot of people because the Fallout 3 and Fallout New Vegas DLC was great, and so then Bethesda came around and said, "Hey, we have a season pass for Fallout 4," and everybody bought it.
It was
garbage. Yeah, abysmal. There was like one piece of actual content and then a bunch of trash. And so a lot of people now are just like, well, I'm never going to buy a season pass again. It only takes one game to poison that well for everybody. So I understand how we got here. I don't think that this is a healthy way forward for the industry.
This is really depressing. I got to say, this entire conversation has been depressing.
I mean, so how are loot boxes on warships? Because you said you have some experience.
You just get free stuff. I mean, I don't even pay attention to it. You get your free whatever. It can't improve your gameplay or whatever.
Yeah.
But I don't, I just.
Well, here's something cool, to make us a little happier. Over on YouTube, Borna says he built a Sandy Bridge era Pentium with an AMD 5670 and hooked it up to a CRT TV to play Cuphead.
That's pretty cool.
Like, wow, that's awesome.
That's dedication. And there's still games out there that I think are doing a good job holding down that line. I think it's not, I don't want to get in trouble with PR people, but I don't think it's very surprising that WB is in the thick of this controversy. If you asked me what company I would think would cause a monetization crisis in the industry,
they'd be up there.
WB would probably be up there. It's funny because I think that EA and Ubisoft and Activision traditionally have been like the three that people are always mad about, and for good reason. Historically, those companies have not been great companies, but I think WB especially is much worse than any of those three at this point.
Pushing the envelope and gonna get.
Yeah, between the disaster that was the Arkham Knight PC port and the disaster that was the disaster that was the Mortal Kombat PC port, and then their whole, hey, we're not going to actually put this DLC on the PC, and then 6 months later they're like, actually we were just joking. I I don't know. WB has done a lot of weird stuff lately. And I think that Bethesda is probably up there too, as far as anti-consumer practices go in recent years. So yeah, I'm not surprised that we're coming to this sort of problem. But it's cast a pall over like what's otherwise been a great year for games. Like I think that the whole loot box thing has like really come home this year. I feel like last year it was like you knew of a couple games. It was like Overwatch and Dota and Team Fortress, and there were a couple games that had this. And this year it's just been like all over the place. Every game wants its loot box implementation.
Yeah, thanks Hayden for coming by and telling us how great PC gaming.
On a better note, what game are you most looking forward to the rest of the year?
Wolfenstein for sure. I think that game. I mean, we'll see. I had some problems with our second demo that we did, but man, that first E3 demo when you were in a wheelchair. I think I've told you.
I watched you play that. Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah, the E3 demo is the opening of the game, and you were like grievously injured at the end of the last one, and so you start the game in a wheelchair, and you roll around this whole level in a wheelchair with a gun, and
it was cool.
Yeah, it's great. It's just very creative and fun. It's what I liked about the first Wolfenstein, or the previous Wolfenstein. So yeah, that and I don't know, maybe Battlefront. We'll see.
I tell you what, it's stupid. It's probably not going to be my game of the year, but I am most looking forward to Battlefront.
Yeah,
because the original one, my brother never played PC games, but because it was Star Wars, we spent dozens of hours playing the original Battlefront together. Just shooting blasters and stuff. So
yeah, and this one's like a real game, so that's like I'm excited for like a Battlefront. Like I'm excited for us to get the Battlefront game that we should have gotten 2 years ago. Like oh cool, we put if you go down the checklist of like what they've added to this game, it's just all the stuff that people wanted the first time around. Like oh wow, we have a single player campaign. Oh did I mention we also have space battles? Did I mention we have a class system? Like all this stuff that people were like
1.5.
Yeah, it's basically like all the stuff that people actually wanted last time. And they were like, they put out they clearly like that game was under time constraints to hit before Force Awakens.
Right.
And so they were like, we got to get something out. We got to just, here's a multiplayer mode and the horde mode and we're done. But yeah, I'm looking forward to Battlefront, I think. We'll see. The beta for that's running this weekend.
Oh, so nice.
Anybody?
There's some people in chat that said they're downloading it.
Yeah, I think right now actually you can jump over on Origin and start playing. So I think it went live at like 1 a.m. last night Pacific time. So
check it out.
You know, even though I don't have many friends to play it with, I'm kind of excited to check out Destiny.
Yeah, that too. So. I've been less excited after hearing people's console experiences. I think.
Well, that's because consoles suck, right?
No, it's the raid. So that game when it released was really people were really pumped about it, and then the first raid came out, and it seems like the perception of that game like switched overnight. Everything I've heard about that raid has been very negative.
It's a weird puzzle aspect.
Yeah, and even if you like get it down, it sounds like apparently it could still take you 12 hours, even if you know exactly what to do, because a lot of it's very finicky. So I don't know. I'm not psyched about that part, but I am excited to have that game on PC. It plays really well. So.
I'm never going to get to a raid. I'm just,
yeah, I mean, yeah, with your like 1 hour, you're never going to make it through Divinity either.
Oh, there's no way. I've been putting like, 2 hours maybe every weekend.
Yeah, cool. So you got
a couple years left,
like 45 weeks, and then you'll finally be done with Divinity. But yeah, how about you, Gordon? You play anything this fall?
All right, we're gonna wrap it up.
I'm still playing World of Warships. It's free to play, man, and I'm a premium wallet player. So
what is that? Did you put real money into?
Of course. It's free to play. It's free to play.
How much do you put into World of Warships?
It's great because it's a free game, and then I buy the ships. Like, oh, this is a great ship. I'm going to buy it. I think I've spent probably $250 on ships for the game. I think my wife doesn't watch the podcast, so she's not going to hear that. Yeah, I mean, probably if you added up all the premium ships I've purchased, I have a small.
What is it? What is a premium ship?
So they're only ships that have
USS Hornet,
features. But they're historically accurate and the like. But they sell them for a little while, but I only buy certain ones, and
Hey, you do have a supporter in the chat. Coffee on YouTube says he likes World of Warships.
Yeah,
I got nothing against the game. This is the first I'm hearing about Gordon putting real money into it. I thought he just like played it because it was free.
On your recommendation, I bought Battlefield 1. I've played that all of 3 minutes. If I could take Battlefield 1 and sell that license to somebody for like $30, I can go buy another ship or something. It's just like, and I started to play. It's like, oh, this is just.
Real quick, Borna on YouTube's asking, what do we think, what do you think about Doom and Fallout 4 VR? Are you gonna try those out?
Oh, so yeah, I tried those like a month ago. We had a Bethesda thing here in SF. I think the Doom VR stuff is really cool. I think that it's not going to replace playing that on our mouse and keyboard. It's a very different experience. But I do think they've done a cool implementation as long as you can get past like the teleport stuff, which to be honest, like I don't notice anymore. I know that some people that's a big sticking point, and I think that you can actually play normal motion with a controller in there, or like a normal glide motion mode, but I think that you would die immediately. I think that people would throw up.
I'd like to test that because I've really tried to push the boundary of getting sick in VR.
Yeah, I think you would be sick almost immediately, but who knows? Maybe not. I think it's really cool, like seeing those monsters. Like cacodemons are a lot bigger than I thought. They're like 6 feet tall, which really blew my mind. Because like when you're playing on a normal screen, you just don't get the scale of those. So like the little the imps and stuff, they always look like they're like 2 feet
tiny.
tall.
They seem they're small.
No, they're like full grown human size. So that was a real weird part of that game. But yeah, I used they had the BFG in there and stuff, and it was really crazy to like that gun is like gigantic. That was fun. Fallout 4, I'm a little less hyped on. The main problem with Fallout 4, so I think it's really cool. In sort of the same way that Google Earth VR, I think is really cool. It's very interesting to just tour around these areas that you've seen on a normal screen. And so the demo was like, we started right outside. I can't remember the first town where you started in that game. But you
Sanctuary Hills.
That's where you come out of the vault and you're in Sanctuary Hills. And then there's the town that's like where the museum is, and you get the power armor on the roof.
Concord.
So yeah, we went into that town and I shot like a Deathclaw and stuff, and it looks really cool. It's like amazing that they have been able to port that into VR. But I think that a lot of the mechanics stuff doesn't work very well in VR. So like looting is a key part of playing Fallout, and looting in that game is very clearly not meant for VR. So you're not like pulling open drawers and you're just like clicking on a drawer. Like you click on a drawer and the drawer opens, and then there's you can't like see the stuff inside. Like if there's, if it says there's a baseball glove in a drawer, you don't like see that glove. Right. It's just like, because it's the same system they had in Fallout 4 for the PC originally.
You could pay for that premium option, Hayden.
Yeah. So I think that kind of that's where it falls apart for me. I don't think that it feels as immersive as people are gonna hope for from a game like that. But on the other hand, I can't think of another game that's like 90 hours long that you can play in VR.
We got somebody in chat asking if you've played the Project Cars 2 in VR.
I have not. I keep meaning to, but I haven't booted up on there yet. I've heard it's really good. I've heard the VR implementation on that is perfect.
And racing seems like it would be.
Yeah, it's good because it's a cockpit game, so it's super easy. If you have a wheel, especially, it should be very nice. But yeah, I haven't done it yet. Mainly,
what I wish they had in Fallout 4 VR? I don't know if they will. I doubt they will. Like a tourist mode or whatever, so you could like toggle the switch and then nothing will attack you.
Yeah,
you can
I think that would honestly be better. I think that like just being able to walk around and talk to people, because it's a little bit weird right now. Another thing that's weird is when you're in a conversation, you can't interact with anything else. And so some of those conversations are really long. And there's it was Preston, right? The Preston was like, I met him in the museum and we went through like just this long conversation, and the whole time you're just like stuck in this room and you can't, like, there was a bobblehead on the desk and I kept trying to pick it up, and the lady running my demo was like, oh, I'm not sure why you can't pick that up, and I was like, well, I'm in a conversation. She was like, oh yeah, that's probably it. And sure enough, like as soon as he stopped talking, which took like 5 minutes, you're like, oh, now I can pick up the bobblehead. So yeah, there's some kinks. There's some stuff that clearly that game was not built for VR originally. Right. But I do think overall, like, it's a cool implementation. I don't know if it's going to be something that people actually play all the way through 90 hours in VR. Some people might, but I don't think that's good enough for that necessarily. But
I'm interested in at least buying and trying both of those.
Yeah, and to be honest, it's cool that Bethesda's just putting VR stuff out there. They're the only studio. I mean, Ubisoft's put out like a couple of those experimental games. They put out this Star Trek game and stuff like that. But Bethesda's the only one that's been like, no, we can make like a AAA game run on this system. I think that's really cool. Nobody else is doing that, so kudos to them.
Sure.
And we also, I mean, I don't want to spend too much time on this, but we also have Oculus Connect coming up this week, so we should have more VR news.
They still
soon.
make those? Is anybody buying them?
They not only make them, but there's rumors that there's going to be a new model coming out of Connect this week. So, well, next Wednesday. So,
have the prices of these things budged at all? I still don't even have a Vive at home.
Over the summer, the Rift was down to $399
with controllers.
Yeah, with controllers.
What about a Vive?
Vive is now down to $699, which was the original Rift price. $599. Yeah, $600. So it's $100 more than where the Rift is right now. Rift is at $500 right now. But they both come down. I mean, that Rift especially, I know a bunch of people that bought Rifts this summer because that $400 for the same cost as PlayStation VR is a pretty great deal.
Yeah.
When they announced that offer, my wife's like, quick, buy one. And she's just never one to let me do it. But it was already sold out like 2 hours after the offer went up.
Wow.
Yeah. It's, I know a bunch of people, I think like 3 or 4 of my friends all bought Rifts during that sale. So, yeah, I think that sale was real smart. I think that sale got the numbers. I mean, I think they're basically 1-1 now. Before the Vive,
no way.
Wow.
Yeah, before the Vive was outselling 2-1. I think the Rift now is 1-1
because of the prices.
Yeah, because of the prices.
Competition's good.
And that also means a much larger install base going forward. So I think we probably have cracked 1 million at this point, which for that sort of hardware is still pretty impressive to me.
Yeah.
Ruru2 says VR is an expensive doorstop.
Maybe.
I don't know. Vive is
We'll
pretty
see.
good.
I don't know. I feel like I fluctuate back and forth daily now. I feel like I used to be real gung-ho, and then for a while I was like, I don't know, nobody's buying it, and it's not really, nothing's coming out for
You
it.
have little faith.
And now, like 6 months later, I feel like it's starting to turn around again. That sale really helped. I feel like when we were up at $800 and $600, it was dead in the water. But I feel like that sale really helped, and now we're starting to see growth again.
Well, Matt over on YouTube says he got Amazon Prime had a deal with $100 off of that, so $300. Like,
yeah,
holy,
that's nuts.
With touch controllers for the Rift.
Yep.
Oh man,
that's the one my wife said to buy.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Yeah, for $300. Like for me, I really do. I don't have a Vive.
Can you World of Warships?
No, you can't.
VR? No, I was actually really curious.
They have Tobii eye tracker.
Yeah, that's why I was curious, because I'm sure they had the eye tracker and IR.
If they did, would you want to be like in the captain's deck thing?
No,
or would you want to be like above it?
It doesn't really. It's one of those games where it doesn't really work for a VR experience. And it's just not. It's a strategy game. Third-person strategy game is what it is. So.
Yeah.
I've played some good strategy games in VR.
Well, when your team isn't made of complete morons, which is only half the time. So.
But yeah, so stay tuned. Wednesday morning. So I think like 10 a.m. or something. Way too early. We gotta be all the way down in San Jose, so we gotta be up super early.
We'll be there.
But yeah, I'm looking forward to maybe seeing some cool stuff come out.
Just gotta get the Vive price down to like $400.
No, I agree.
Like $400. It's like
I think that Vive price is still. I'm surprised they stayed as high as they did.
Right.
I'm sure HTC, which is in dire straits at the moment, could not have gone much lower. Maybe they can't afford to sell that hardware at a loss, and maybe Facebook can. But I'm still pretty amazed that they haven't dropped lower. And then we have all the Windows MR stuff coming out.
Oh, that's going to change. Yeah.
That's going to change nothing. Let's, I don't know. The Windows MR stuff is very weird because Microsoft has just muddied the waters on everything. And I keep seeing comments being like, these do AR too, right? And they don't. Microsoft,
it's because they sell it as mixed reality in every stage demo.
But they don't do any. So like everything I've heard from Microsoft and from the vendors is that Microsoft's department name is the MR department, like mixed reality department, and it covers all of these new headsets and HoloLens. And HoloLens is the only AR headset that they make. All these other headsets are just VR headsets, and I, like every vendor I've talked to has been very clear with me about that because it's very confusing. When I met up with Alienware and Dell at PAX, they were like, "No, these are VR headsets. That's it. They don't do any camera pass through. They don't do any like all this stuff that people think these headsets are doing to like make AR a thing. They're not doing."
Where exactly is the mixed part of that reality?
That's the whole confusion.
Well, you can go into it and then you can come out of it.
No, they've just muddied the waters because they have this department name, and going forward their goal is to implement HoloLens style stuff into their VR headsets and all that. But like these headsets are just VR headsets. They're not
And there's no room scale with them.
There is sort of, but it's done by the front cameras.
Right.
And so you have outside in tracking, and it's very buggy from what I've seen. We'll see how the final units do, especially in like a house environment where there's nothing there. My main problem is we were doing this at PAX on the show floor. And I started out, we were playing Super Hot in VR, and I started out on the ground, and by the time the demo was over, I was like 8 feet in the air, and it's just like slowly, like every time I reset, it just crept upwards another foot. And so I don't know if that was a problem because there were so many people around, and the background is constantly shifting, and maybe in like a house where your furniture is just not moving, it'll be better. But
your advice is for somebody who wants to get into VR,
don't buy one of these until you've seen reviews. I think that maybe it'll be cool, and I think some of the stuff that Microsoft has talked about, maybe especially with like gearing it towards business and productivity, could be cool. But don't like day one, October 17th, like rush out and buy one of these things.
But all those business and productivity stuff they've been showing off have been augmented reality things for HoloLens. I haven't heard very much about these VR.
Well, and that's also the problem is all of it at launch comes through the Windows Store.
Yeah, I was just about to say that. And I talked to them
like, so how much stuff is actually getting ported over? And they were like, like a decent amount. Okay. Like, I don't think that's enough. Like, Steam doesn't even have enough for me to recommend the Vive and the Rift sometimes to like a person that's on the fence.
Not at the price.
Now you're talking about like a small subset of stuff in the Windows 10 store, which nobody likes using. And that's like your first platform on launch day. They are adding Steam VR support eventually. So you will be able to use compatible Steam VR games with it. But that's not coming at launch. That's coming like a month or two later. So
the only thing I can think of that's more terrifying than using the Windows Store is using the Windows Store all around me.
Being surrounded by the Windows Store.
It's so spacious though because somebody's in there. Oh no, that's the actual physical Windows Store. All right. We promised we were going to answer some questions, but I think we're just about out of time. Are there any kind of outstanding questions? No, not really. We're good.
Yeah, we answered quite a few.
We're going to save those questions. He's asked them. Hayden's already answered them during the show, so we'll be back to answer questions next time. But I got to wrap this up because we are going to get yelled at.
I'm so hungry.
And it's lunchtime. So check back in 2 weeks for your fix of PC Talking the Full Nerd. For audio listeners, subscribe to us on iTunes, Google Play, or Stitcher. Also, if you go to iTunes, leave a review saying how much the PC gaming is better than Mac gaming, because it'll be in the iTunes store and you can piss them off. Send questions and comments to thefullnerd@pcworld.com. There's actually no email waiting for us. We will read them and respond. Thanks for coming. I'm Gordon Ung with Brad Charkis.
Adios.
Special guest Hayden Dingman.
Hey, guys.
And Adam will take us out.
See ya, everyone.
That's creepy.
What?